Hello folks, my name is Rick Pearson and this is Prophecy USA, a program specifically designed to unveil the hidden mystery of America's role in Bible prophecy. Romans 12:3 says that God has given to every man the measure of faith. Faith is the unwillingness to accept failure and the ability to go against all odds and achieve the success that God originally designed you to have. Today, we have someone on our show that against all odds used his faith to become a legend within the racing industry. Stay tuned, you do not want to miss this interview. Welcome back, folks. Today on Prophecy USA, we're going to focus on something that everyone needs to find within themselves, and that something is the measure of faith. There has been no country in the history of the world that has given the freedom and the liberty for each and every person to fulfill their callings or their careers as the United States of America. And America has many heroes in almost every industry known to man, from the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk to the incredible technology as the World Wide Web. But today, we have with us someone whose name has been spoken over loudspeakers and televisions all over the world. He won the IndyCar National Championship 4 times and was a 3-time winner at Sebring. He won races in sports cars, sprint cars, and stock cars, oval roads, drag strips, on dirt and on pavement. He won at virtually every level of motorsport since he arrived in America from his native Italy at the age of 15. He is a racing icon. He's considered by many to be the greatest race car driver in the history of the sport. Assessing his legacy is easy. He drove with a passion and joy that few have equaled. And he won. Mario Andretti took the checkered flag 111 times during his career. A career that stretched 5 decades. And he was competitive at all of those years. He was named Driver of the Year in 3 different decades, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and the Associated Press named him Driver of the Century in January 2000. My dear friend Mario, welcome to Prophecy USA.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Mario, most people, when they think of Mario Andretti, they think of someone standing holding up a cup and winning a race as a winner. But when you were younger, you had many struggles that many people don't know. Could you tell us about when you were 15 after World War II and what your family had to overcome?
Yes, well, we were exactly a product of World War II. In fact, the region where I was born, the peninsula of Istria, one of the many regions of Italy, the far northeast of our country.
Yes.
After the war, after the Paris Pact of 1947, Italy obviously was in the losing part of the war, and they had to give up territory. And it was a decision made by the U.S., Russia, France, and the UK. And Russia pushed to annex that region to Yugoslavia, and under Marshal Tito, hardline communism. So quickly, in a matter of just 2 years after the war ended, our life changed dramatically, not just us. It's estimated over 300,000 people in that region had to make a choice.
And your father lost over 2,500 acres of farmland?
Yes.
You lost everything.
Yes. My dad was an administrator of the family holdings. There were 6 farms. And all of a sudden, communism comes in, and they own everything. You're working for the state. That's hardline communism. And so we had a choice. There was an arrangement made with the government of Italy that we were allowed to leave, just leave everything, and there was supposed to be a compensation paid in 3 installments.
A government promise.
Government promise. and of a number that was going to be, just dreamed up by them. But the number was never given to us. But the compensation never arrived either. And that's one of the reasons why even today there was the question about not allowing some of those countries to become part of the UE, because there's still some litigations going on. I was asked, if I want to participate, and I said I want nothing to do with all that.
How old were you when this took place?
Well, I was born in 1940, so I was 7 years old, and at the end of that period, by 1948, there was decision time. I mean, it was already, this was part of what was, like I said, decided again.
Sure.
When in the family, we're going to leave.
So you were 8 years old.
Yeah, we became refugees, just many, like thousands of others, in our own country, because Italy could only absorb, so much.
People.
I mean, after the war, there was no employment factors and everything else, and so there we were. And so, but going back to the subject here about a negative becoming a positive, I'm looking back, and I've said this many times. In fact, I'll just go fast forward. At one point, when things were happening in the right direction for me career-wise, when we were already in the States, I said, Dad, I think we should put Marshall Tito on our Christmas list. I said, can you imagine, if we would have stayed there, obviously, there would have been a continuation of your life, of what you work for, but would I have been able to pursue what Aldo and I were
America.
Really, yeah.
America gave you the
my
opportunity.
My career, yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that's clear. I mean, it's, okay, we were in a refugee camp, and we had kept correspondence with an uncle on my mother's side. And at one point in 1952, we were there already for 4 years. My uncle suggested to my dad, well, if things are not getting any better, why don't you apply for visas and come to America? I know I can find a job for you. He was a foreman in one of the factories where I live now, actually in Nazareth. And
so you moved to Nazareth?
Yes.
Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Nazareth, Pennsylvania. I'm still there.
And you're
That's
still
my
there.
home. Yeah. And but anyway, visas applied in 1952. 3 years later, the visas finally come through.
3 years. And you lived in a refugee camp waiting for a visa.
Yes, from 48 to 55. And so that's his decision time. We're going to America and maybe come back in 5 years and so forth. But obviously,
That never happened.
That never happened. But the minute that we arrived there on a Thursday, and the following Sunday, this was in June, the following Sunday, we were at my uncle's house, just hanging out, basically an evening, a Sunday night, and we see lights in the background, bright lights at the fairgrounds, and we hear all of a sudden an explosion, a roar of engines. Aldo and I, my twin brother,
You were 15?
Aldo, 15.
15 years old.
Aldo and I looked at each other. We both.
So in the darkness, there came light.
We follow the lights, and then we peeking through the guardrail of the fence there, and we see these brute-looking stock cars, and it looked doable to us because the race that we witnessed just before that, a year before in '54, some friends that we befriended, while we were at the camp, there were two owners of a parking garage and so forth. They took us to Monza, to northern Italy,
Okay.
to see the Italian Grand Prix, and that's where I saw, firsthand, my idol Alberto Ascari, who was driving for Ferrari, current world champion. He was the biggest inspiration for me, and after seeing that race, in my own mind, there was no plan B from there.
You knew what you wanted to do.
I knew, I mean...
Do you feel like it was almost like a calling?
It was a calling, but how do you, it just happened. And, I became passionate, along with my brother Aldo. We're twins, and so we pursuing the same dreams, actually. And we didn't have there wasn't even a family car, per se, at the time. And we wanted to become racing drivers.
So you wanted to race, you're in Nazareth, and you wanted to start racing, and you didn't have a car. So what did you do? Well,
2 years after we arrived at age 17, we used to hang out at a gas station that was owned by, I call him Uncle Louis. He was married to my second cousin.
Yes.
And that was very good because we were able to actually be able to mingle with people and learn the language and all that. But we 2 years later, we befriended some other youngsters there. And one, you always find the geek, that knows everything. And there was Charlie Mitch, and he was the one that directed us, into what to do. How to go about building a stock car. And
so you built your first car?
We built the first car, yeah.
You and your brother?
Yeah, and actually we built it, we were 17, and you had to be 21 to race legally professionally in those days. So we figured, well, we have plenty of time. We got 4 years, to get it done. Car was done in 2 years. And we said, well, now what do? We're not going to wait 2 years. So we befriended a gentleman was the editor of the Nazareth Key, a newspaper, which still operates there. And we said, Les Young, I said, Les, can you do something with our license, driver's license, to make us 21 from 19. And so he obviously he did that. And then we had to fib a little bit, and say, we look pretty young. And I said, well, we used to race in Italy. We used to race Formula Junior, and actually in Ancona, and Formula Junior was exactly that, juniors. And so people, no computers or anything, they were buying all this. And we, Aldo and I looked apart because we invested in a racing uniform from Italy, Sala Sport uniform with all the zippers and everything. and so everybody, this kids from Italy.
Who drove the car the first race?
Aldo drove.
You let Aldo
coin. Well, I didn't let him. We tossed a coin. We had one car, one helmet,
yes,
and 2 drivers. So tossed a coin, and Lord and behold, he goes and he wins the first heat, qualifying heat, and the feature. I could not believe my eyes. He's passing cars, and we did a good job. And we bought information for one of the established teams in NASCAR. Teams that were winning races with the Hudson Hornet. And we paid $500 for that information.
Now, what were you doing for work at that time?
Well, we went to school.
You were going to school?
And Aldo and I used to alternate at night working at the Sunoco gas station from
You
Uncle.
pumped gas?
Yeah, pumped gas. He would work one night, I worked the other night, and we used to earn between the two of us $45 a week, which we had to give 35. We gave 35 to home, to contribute. We kept 10, to take.
So you obviously believe in the American work ethic, don't you?
Yes, of course.
Do you think this could have happened anywhere else but in America?
No.
Only in America?
Only in America, no question about it. I mean, as I said, I look back and once the career started, it was just, there were so many factors that, were taking part here. But, when we're going back to the subject of, the negative becoming a positive, you know, you're always looking for that break somewhere, you know, at a given point. And the next big break that I had was just when I was trying to reach the top level from sprint cars, you know, to the champ cars,
Yes.
you know, to Indianapolis in 1964. There was there was a fatality. Unfortunately, you know, the sport was very cruel, especially in those years, and and I was winning in that, you know, in the sprint cars, and all of a sudden a seat was open in the champ cars, and because I made some good impressions there,
They hired you.
all of a sudden, you know, my name was up there, you know, and they gave me a test in Trenton, New Jersey. It was during a Firestone test, and what's interesting is that actually Roger Penske was driving race car. He was a driver, you know, earlier on in his life, and he was supposed to be the first one. He was the first choice to do that test, and then Lord and behold, he had, you know, he was always a go-getter, so he had a busy schedule and he had a commitment, a business commitment somewhere. So they said, okay, we let Andretti do it. And then Andretti, somehow, you know, I did good enough that they said, yep, you know, you're on.
Did you ever get the feeling that somebody was watching over you?
Yeah.
You believe in a higher
I
power,
believe.
don't you?
And I believe, and I know who it was. My uncle priest.
Your uncle was a priest.
My uncle was a priest. He raised my dad. My father lost his parents when he was 4 and 6, respectively. Lost both of them, and my uncle priest. He was my father's mother brother.
Yes.
He raised my father, and he was the most wonderful man. He was a saint. I love that man so much. Just growing, you know, just his demeanor, everything about him, and he you know, later on, you know, what I realized how I even paid attention to his homily, you know, when he would, just things that he would talk about in church, you know, and when he would do the preaching, he was realistic, you know, realistic about today's time, today's issues, today's things. And even as a young lad, I could understand that sort of thing.
Yes.
He was not talking about, okay, the angels on your shoulder and all that
Yes.
sort of thing. And, you know, the other thing that was interesting, you know, everybody always go to confession on a Saturday. And he had the biggest lineup, you know, and it's because
they trusted him.
No, because his sentence, no matter whether you were there, whether you told 3 lies or you murdered 3 people, the sentence was only 3 Hail Marys, no rosary, you know.
That's funny.
He was a great man, but like I said, going back to, I really, really feel that he guided me through so many of these issues.
His prayers.
His prayers.
Were your parents religious at all?
Excuse me?
Were they religious? Were they strong believers?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Of the Catholic faith?
Absolutely. Oh,
Okay.
yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, my mother, you know, many times they would go to church during the week and so forth, you know, to Mass and so always. Yeah, we were, you know. But again, you know, my dad, I retired, you know, because of the, you know, what I was earning in the sport. I retired him early. You know, I was very proud, and you know, I used to get a lot of cars from the manufacturers, you know, just to drive. Then at the end of like a year, I would buy like a brand new Lincoln or a Cadillac, you know, and I would give it to my dad. My dad was so freaking proud, you know, like, you know.
Well,
his friends, you know.
Two of his boys,
you know,
did excellent.
And he says, Mario, it's a shame to die in America. you know, it's a shame to die in America. It's everything. It's so good, you know.
It's so good.
Life is so good.
He doesn't want to leave America.
You know. But he lived to be 90. Both did. God bless.
Now, you shared with me once something that you're an ultralight pilot,
Yes.
and that you were flying over a lake and you lost your engine, and you had a young girl with you that was somebody's daughter was flying with you,
Yes.
and you were coming in, you lost the engine, you were going to land on the water, and then all of a sudden at the last second, you undid her seatbelt and undid yours.
Yes.
And you said if you hadn't have done that, once you hit, it threw you away. And if you would have kept the seatbelts on, you probably would have drowned. Do you remember telling me that?
You're so right. Yeah, and I often say, what gave me that idea? Because it's not that we had a, safety thing just before, if something this and that happens, do this. It just came to me. But I thought that I would come in, try to get as much airspeed as I could, even though I didn't have that much altitude. Then I could just flare it and then drop in. Well, that didn't happen, but I didn't know that. But the way I thought, I said, you know what, we don't want to go down with this thing, and I did exactly. And again, as soon as the ultralight hit the water, the wheels hit the water, it flipped, and it threw us. Can you imagine if we would have been with it and gone to the bottom, and then you panic?
But something on the inside. It says the Old Testament prophets call it that still small voice, and psychologists call it your conscience, and some people call it a woman's intuition. But the bottom line is inside is a still small voice that will lead and guide and direct you if you listen.
Yeah.
And you've been through many, close calls.
Close calls, yeah. That but for this much, it could have been just the end of it.
Were you ever scared when you got into an accident?
No. Well, I mean, scared. I mean, obviously, you're human. You're human.
Sure.
I mean, it's, but as far as I always felt defiance. I said, I'm in control, and you know what? I love what I'm doing so much that I'm doing it no matter what. I'm taking. I mean, there's a risk to be taken, and I will take it.
Yes.
And hopefully, I will not make my mistake that will happen. And then for the rest, I just have to be relying on the grace of God. I mean, it's and that's it. And that's the way it's been. In my life, I drove 879 races, and I only missed 2 races because of injury. I mean, in those, the decades that I drove, the friends that I lost, and I mean, somehow I was spared. I almost feel guilty, to be honest with you, in so many ways. Why so far? I mean, at least so far, I was spared. I don't know, but...
You made a statement in one of your books, and I thought this was very interesting, being in business and even life. You said that if you're in total control, you're not going fast enough when you're driving a car. Would you explain what you meant by that?
Well, the correct quote is, if everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough. And I think I told you when we were writing one of my books in 1994, when I stepped out of Indy cars officially, the author that was writing with me, he says, Mario, explain to me qualifying. And I was thinking, just watching a skier come down, on that breakneck speed, and I was thinking of Franz Klammer, who obviously became world champion. I think ABC Wide World Sport was showing him, when he was coming down the hill in the freestyle, and he just all over the place, but made it through. And qualifying, you do the same thing. I mean, you get the car right on the edge of disaster, but you keep it within, and then and so that's it. And in so many ways, business is the same. If you're gonna,
if you're going to get ahead, you have to take risks. If you're going to get ahead,
you got to take some risks.
Yes.
I mean, I always said, it's very convenient to be mediocre.
So a lot of people watching this, they might be going through some things and they feel that their life is totally out of control. So what would you say? Would you say to stay focused on the vision, stay focused on your morals, stay focused on the direction?
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. I mean, these are the things that are under your control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. I mean, it's, again, you have to believe in yourself, obviously. And I think desire, all I know is what has driven me throughout my life. I mean, a burning desire to accomplish something, but something that I love so much. And again, there's always a sacrifice for anything that's worthwhile.
So you follow your passion.
I followed the passion, and I had a most wonderful saint of a lady, my wife, Deanne, who just, she just understood me and never ever made me feel guilty for being so selfish, because I was selfish because I was pursuing something that was really giving me the satisfaction.
And she taught you English, didn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Was she from Italy?
No. She was, they call Pennsylvania Dutch, she had a French mother and a Dutch father.
Okay.
And wonderful combination, quite honestly. Great lady. And again, we met at the Holy Family dances on a Saturday night, but then and then she she helped me.
You met her at church then?
Yeah, we met her at church. Yeah.
Wow. Well, is there anything that you would like to share as far as overcoming? Maybe one of the most difficult things that you had to overcome in your life that you would share with people, and how you overcame, like by using your faith?
Well, basically, I don't know if I give you a specific, while we were talking about, what we were going to really express here is basically just events. What if this wouldn't have happened? What if that wouldn't have happened? It's all about, being Johnny on the spot, being ready to pounce on the opportunity. Don't wait for, okay, if I wait long enough, things going to come my way. No, you have to be there.
Your faith has to have legs on.
Proactive, yeah.
You have to be proactive.
Yeah. It's, I'll give you another just perfect example. You talk about during my career, my objective was at one point to dedicate the time just 100% to Formula One. Because of my upbringing, Formula One was what really drew me to the sport, and I wanted, to have the opportunity to really do it properly. I had already won my first race in South Africa for Ferrari, blah blah blah. But I was earning really well here in the state. I couldn't give it up. At one point, I said I have to do it, and we did it with the American team. And it was not all that successful. But during the second season, this is, I drove in 1975 and 1976 at the beginning of the second season. We were at the second race of the season in Long Beach, and I'm in a cockpit, and one of the announcers, Chris Economaki, very famous, he was for ABC, Wide World Sports, he said, "Mario, what's your reaction that Val Miletich and Parnelli Jones decided they were going to pull out of Formula One after this race?" And
that's the first you'd heard.
I heard it.
Oh my goodness!
And I said, and I'm thinking, I want to keep pursuing this, and so that's it. And I was so upset. The following morning, I'm having breakfast by myself at the Queensway Hilton in Long Beach. 2 tables away was Colin Chapman, Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
And we were both kind of, I think, with a chin in our socks because of me, what I was experiencing, and him, that he had the worst race in his career that weekend, you know. His car was not competitive and so on and so forth. And so we look at each other, and then I just joined him, and we started talking. And and I said, you know, Colin, I'm out of Formula One. I said, I can't believe it. I said, I finally committed, because he even asked, you know, he had asked me before, you know, to join the team, and I couldn't,
Sure.
just couldn't afford to do it. I said, but I want to do it. And he says, Mario said, I wish I could offer you a decent car. We have a really not a good car at the moment. There was a reason, because he was quite the entrepreneur, and he started a boat company, a car company, and so on and so forth. So a motor racing was not, you know, his main attention given. And so he said, I wish I could do that. And I said, well, Colin, if you make me number one on the team, I said, and you come back racing and delegate authority to, you know, some people to run your other businesses, I said, I'll join you. He says, right.
And that was it.
And I said, and he said, but I don't have a good, I said, we'll make the car better. And we did. The season, I won the last race of the season in Japan, which really launched us. And he says, you know, after that race, he said, Mario, he says, next year's car is going to make this one look like the London bus. You know, there was fire in all of
fire.
them.
Faith.
You know,
Actual faith.
Fire, you know, like, and then 2 years later, we win the world championship together. You see.
And that was made at a time when you were at one of your lowest points.
The lowest point.
So when it's the darkest, sometimes that's when you can shine the most.
It just, you know, it happened, obviously. You know, I had no idea going to breakfast.
A spark of faith.
Something happened. But, you know, and how do you quantify that? I don't know. But you know what? You never lose faith, because these things teach you something.
Do you see signs happening now? You probably didn't even know what was going on when you were 8, but do you see any parallels now that's happening in America with this New World Order and all this stuff? Do you see communism coming in?
Oh, God, I mean, every single day. I mean, like, when you, I mean, all you have to do is just follow the politics.
Right now, what I'm seeing happening in America and in Canada is we are falling into gross darkness.
We really are.
Gross darkness.
It's amazing. But, you know, I'm not going to be captured by that, though, you know.
You have to overcome it with your faith.
Yeah.
So here we are. Our show is called Prophecy USA. It's a program specifically designed to unveil the hidden mystery of America's role in Bible prophecy. And one of the prophecies on America is that she falls into darkness. But just because a nation falls into darkness doesn't mean that you have to fall into darkness. The light inside of you can overcome whatever darkness that you see around you. And so, Mario, I want to thank you for coming on this show. You're my neighbor, and we got to know each other out by the pool, and it's been an honor and a pleasure. And thank you for coming on the show.
You're more than welcome.
It was my delight to have you on. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed our interview with Mario Andretti. And it's a reminder to all of us that when you're going against all odds and you think you can't make it, you can reach down to the bedrock of your faith, anchor your soul to the rock of ages, and take the victory that God created you to achieve. My name is Rick Pearson. This is Prophecy USA, and we're reminding you that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is alive, and He's coming back much sooner than many people think. See you next week on Prophecy USA. Shalom.